Okay, good afternoon. Okay, everyone. Today we will continue on chapter 6, second part of chapter 6. Chapter 6 is belong to Zhuang Zi's inner chapter, and Zhuang Zi's inner chapter has been considered as his own writing. Total have 7 chapters, and then we are on the chapter 6, second part of chapter 6. If you are not reading the other chapter, I think it's fine because each one is kind of independent. Even some related, but it's basically they are independent to each other. So they'll be fine. And chapter 6, I decided to split to 2 parts. Last time we talked about the first part, which is about the concept so-called true man and the concept of Tao. And I have to admit, last time the writing is very different than others, which is a little bit dry. Basic is all about the preaching instead of give you some argument or give some story. That's the first part of chapter 6. And today we are going to cover the second part, which of chapter 6. And I believe the second part is much fun. It's more readable than first part because it's include 7 different, I think it's 7 different stories and then 7 dialects. So it's more fun to read for second part of chapter 6. And the main concept is a little bit religious related, which is about the death, the concept of death. So before I start the text, okay, I will give some brief background on this one. Zhuang Zi is a philosopher in China. He believed around 2nd and 3rd BCE, which is roughly same as Plato's time in Greek. And we use the translation from Fung You Lan. He's the modern 20th century writer, and he has educated in American, get a PhD in philosophy in Columbia. So I find out that his translation is very readable for the Western reader. So that's why based on his translation, and of course I will add some of my own opinion. So Zhuang Zi, just give a quick background. It's a book, also a person. So when I say Zhuang Zi, okay, it could be means the person who is the writer, could means the book, and also means the philosophy. So here we call Zhuang Zi. It's a book, have a 33 chapter, and we are going to cover the inner chapters from 1 to 7, which believe is Zhuang Zi his own writing. So we has been through and chapter 6, and then we are going to cover the chapter 7 on September 23rd after the break. So the book, just give some background of the book. So I put this one in as a summary for each chapter. So I'm not going through on each chapter. And then I will directly go to chapter 6. So last time we talked about, I will separate chapter 6 with 3 parts. First part talk about the true man, the concept of true man. Second part talk about the Tao. And the third part talking about the death. So last time we already covered A and B. Okay, so today we are going to cover is the third part, which on death. Okay. So this one, as I mentioned before, it's much more fun to read, and then it's more there's a dialogue and 7 short story, 7 short dialogues, and which is easier to read than last time. So I'm going to go through these 7 stories through these 2 hours. And I think I may finish a little bit earlier today because we don't have a lot of material. And then before I start, if anyone have a question, concern, please. Marty, please.
What page are you starting on, sir?
Page, do you have a text?
Yes.
It should be on the, anybody know the text? I don't bring, let me bring the text, just 1 minute.
The chapter starts on page 41, but I don't know what page section 3 starts.
Okay. I think you go to, just 1 minute, I have to find it. You go to the 3-4 pages, okay? Let me see. Anybody know the page number?
If you just tell me the beginning of the paragraph, I'll be able to
The
find
beginning
it.
part says Nan Po. Do you see this one? Nan Po Tzu Kuei. Okay. I think it's after. I think it's last time only have 3 pages. If you go 3 pages down, you should be able to see. Let me show you.
Okay, I'll find it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you'll find it. Yeah, it's just 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so last, any other question before I start? So basically, I will put the, I basically copy all the text. You don't have to read your page, your text, because I copy the text on the slide. So you will read, you can read on the slide. Just 1 minute. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so at the beginning, let me see. Okay, Nan Po Tzu Kuei is a, let's assume he's a person. Okay, he asked Nu Yu. Okay, I will assume we don't know these 2 persons, Nu Yu and the Nan Po Tzu Kuei. Okay, so we will, I will assume Nu Yu is a lady, a madam. Okay, but you know, a lot of, because since we don't know who is the person, so a lot of traditional assume it's a he, but I think it could be very possible a she. Okay, so you are old, madam. Okay, instead of sir, but your countenance is like that of a child. How is that? So basically, she looks young. So Nan Po Tzu Kuei asked her what's going on? You look so young. So her answer, Nu Yu's answer is, I have become acquainted with Tao, or you want to say I learned Tao, I practiced Tao. So Nan Po Tzu Kuei asked, can I learn Tao? And her answer is no. How can you? That's her reply. You are not the man to do so. There are Pu Liang Yi. Okay, Pu Liang Yi is another person. Okay. Pu Liang Yi is another person, and she said, okay, what she said, Pu Liang Yi, who had the genius of a sage, which means he has the talent to learn, but not learned yet. And I have learned, but I don't have the talent. So I wish to teach him, so he might really become a sage. So right now, Nu Yu is going to tell how she teach the person, okay, Bu Liang Yi, okay, the person. So she's going to say what's the process of learning. So that's what he said. And I lay down to 7 steps of process. So she said, that's what she said. First, I kept on telling him, okay, and another translation is I kept on teaching him. After 3 days, and he be able to disregard all the worldly matters. So first, after 3 days, Bu Liangyi, okay, the student, can disregard all the worldly matters. Number 2, after he's having disregarded all worldly matters, I kept on telling him for 7 days, he began to be able to disregard all external things. So that's the second step. He can disregard all external things. Number 3, after he's having disregarded all external things, I kept on telling him, after 9 days, he began to be able to disregard his own existence. So that's the third step, okay, from disregard all worldly matters, and then disregard all external things, then disregard all his own existence. So total, it takes about 19 days, right? Okay. And then number 4, after disregarding his own existence, he was enlightened. Number 5, having become enlightened, he then was able to gain the vision of the One. Number 6, having the vision of the One, he then was able to transcend the distinction of past and the present. Number 7, having transcended the distinction of past and the present, he was then able to enter the realm of where life and the death are no more. I would prefer a different translation. I will translate as transcendent the distinction of life and the death. So here, Nu Yu, who already learned Tao, taught another person, Bu Liangyi, how to step by step to achieve Tao. So you can see from the first step, she teach him to disregard all the worldly matters. To the step number 7, she taught him how to transcend the distinction of life and the death. In other words, you are able to disregard the life and the death. You see life and the death as the same thing. So that's she tried to teach. And then she continued. Then to him, to Bu Liangyi, okay, the destruction of life did not mean death. The production of life does not mean life. He will follow anything. He will receive anything. To him, everything was in destruction. Everything was in construction. In another way, he is talking about the destruction and the construction has not much difference. So this is called, important message here is tranquility in disturbance. Tranquility in disturbance means consummation the Tao in disturbance. So we all pursue the tranquility in our mind, but something outside we cannot control. The outside world is a disturbance, but you have to keep your mind in tranquility. I think that's the message. So basically, I think to me, important message here is about the destruction and the construction. So when a lot of time we just change I think later on we will see the similar message here about the destruction and the construction. One example I like to make is when we, let's say a carpenter make a table, we construct a table, but to a tree, it's a destruction, right? So it destructs the tree, okay, and construct a table. Then if you destruct the table, become a few legs and the thing, then become a wood. So destruction and the construction actually is depend on which way you look, what's your point of view. And here he want to talk about she want to talk about is the destruction and the construction actually is no difference. And the life and the death is also no difference. Okay, so after talking about all this, then Nan Po Tzu Kuei keep asking, right? Where did you learn this? Right? How does you know? Okay, learn this one. So she said, okay, that 9 generations, okay, to learn. So the translation is interesting. So I like to put a few moments here. So that's her answer. She said, I learned it from writing, and the writing from learning, learning from understanding, understanding from maintaining, maintaining from application, application from enjoyment, enjoyment from mystery, mystery from namelessness, namelessness from infinite. Okay, so sometimes I like to change to skepticism. I will explain this one. So you will see, she talk about the how does she learn? Is from writing, learning, understanding, maintaining, application, enjoyment, mystery, namelessness, and infinity. Another translation, if you look at the Chinese character here, it said the son of Fu Mo, and then learn from the grandson of Luo Song. Okay, so this name actually sounds like a person's name. So some translation will translate as I learned from the son of Fu Mo, and Fu Mo learned from the grandson of Luo Song. Luo Song learned from the son from Zhan Min, Zhan Min from Nie Xu, Nie Xu from Xu Yu, blah blah blah. They have different persons' name. Okay, so the interest part here is Zhuangzi write the generate or invented different people's name. But if you look at the name, the meaning, Fu Mo actually means the ink production. Luo Song actually means repetitive reciting, okay, recitation. And the Zhan Min actually means clear enlightenment. And the Xu Yu actually means diligent practice. This one means singing and so about. So Zhuangzi create different people's name, and the name actually means something. So they have. So sometimes you read it, you will find that the two kinds of translation. That means she learned from different person, all right, step by step, or she learned from through writing, through learning, through understanding, through maintaining, application, enjoyment, mystery, namelessness to infinity. So there's a double meaning here. So that's to the end of the first story, okay, which is talking about the Tao, how does she learn the Tao, the step by step, and the process of learning the Tao. So I will stop here for a moment if you have a question and a comment on this part. Kevin, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Haven't heard from you for a long time.
Yes, thank you, Jason. Yeah, that's wondering ask about the dog.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you clearly. You have an echo.
Let me check.
That now?
Yeah, that'll be better.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. The fun part about it. Generous, yeah, the one, the previous, yeah, life and last slice.
Last one.
About last slice, yeah, about death and life, yeah. This one and the previous one, it's very interesting about different other, yeah, books. The transcend of this distinction of life and death.
Yeah,
that's speak to me. If you from make your ology side atom, it's right, the minimum block is narrow, right? From you mentioned that from wood to table, atom still atom. If from you maybe we got a physical even more divide to the more small particle, So they speak something, and from a religion aspect or ideology, from did you remember from Bible, John Bible, I believe chapter 1. It's God is word, God is word. So we create our own convenience as human being. It's we communicate to each other, build even value, virtue based on a word. It's help understand another way. However, the drawback, we trapped over those words. The limited our thought. And it's like we build tools shape us. Yeah, that's one thing. And second one is obviously the balance, the tranquility of the next slide, right? How do you find your own balance? If we consider, for example, a life is good, so we hate the war. However, our mind slowly build the momentum, build conflict with pair, others, community on country level, because we consider supremacy ourselves. We consider our values better others. So vice versa. Another side do the same thing. So that conflict going to raise up. In the peace world, you can have insurance, have better life, have a family. But in the war zone or the conflict come up, we could have lost those. And another aspect from even from a world view, the nature itself. The water can be flood, the fire could be wildfire, and the human-made error conflict can be the war. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. Yeah, I think a lot of points, it's the same as what I'm thinking, and which also match with the following few stories, because this one is just starting, and then Zhuangzi is going to talk about after death, just like you mentioned, like, we all met by atoms. So Zhuangzi, the Taoist concept of death, is kind of way similar with the Hindu's concept. Like I think last week, SK talking about like a wave, right? In the ocean, in the wave. After you die, you're part of the wave. It's nothing changed. I think in this way, the concept is very similar. So anybody have any thought want to share, okay, about this first story? We don't have a lot of people, so it's probably easier for you, for everyone to share how do you think, and then, or if you have a question, please. Okay, otherwise I will move on the second story. Second story I call it the Four Horsemen, and then I call Three Musketeers. The only reason is Zhuangzi always had put a lot of people's name. And so I think the next story talk about four good friends, and the story number 3, we talk about 3 good friends. So I call them Four Horsemen and 3 Musketeers. That's it. But please don't be confused by the name, because Zhuangzi never talk about horsemen. Okay, so here talk about 4 horsemen. Basically, talk about 4 good friends. Okay. So here he talk about 4 friends. Okay. Let's see. 子是, 子与, 子离, and 子来. Okay, that's 4 people said to each other. So to avoid confusion, then I call it A, B, C, D. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different people. So there's 4 different people said to each other. Whosoever can make nothing the head of his existence, life its backbone, the death its tail. Whosoever knows that death and life, existence and non-existence are one, that man should be our friend. So basically, that's their common belief. Okay, they believe nothing is the head of existence, and life is the backbone, death is the tail, and the life, death, existence, and the non-existence are one. They already know the Tao. There's no difference. Okay. The four men smiled, slightly agree with each other, and thus become friends. So that's very common literature description. That's for sworn brotherhood. So not long after, Zhiyu, which is the second people, B, let me call him B. That's 1 minute. Okay, second, okay, not long after, Zhiyu fell ill, and Zhi, the first one, went to see him. So he said, great is the maker of things. So remember the word, the maker of things. Okay, so that's the first time appear in Zhuangzi. I would like you to think about the kind of like God in Christian concept, okay, of God. And then, okay, that's the Christian concept of God, but it's different than the Christian God. But that's the word we can see as a God. That's the first time, probably the only text in only Zhuangzi talk about this. Okay, the maker of God. Please keep this one in mind. Okay, so he said, great is the maker of things. He caused me to have such a deformed manner, said the sick man B, okay, which is Zhiyu, or he got sick, so but he didn't feel sad. He said, great is the maker of things. He caused me to have such a deformed manner. So seems like he's very sick. So his back was hunched. So here the following description, how his body being deformed because he is very sick. Remember, Zhuangzi not only being read as a philosophical writing, it's also being taught as a literature. So the following kind of literature description. So he talked about his back was hunched, his viscera went at the top of his body, his cheek were level with his navel, his shoulder were higher than his crown, his neck vertebral bones pointed to the sky. The principle of his whole body were out of order. Nevertheless, okay, so basically he's talking about he's totally deformed. I think it's become a hunchback. His head is down. He cannot stand straight. That's he described. Zhuangzi described how sick Zhiyu become. Okay, but he said, okay, his mind was at ease and not affected. His mind is not affected. He limped to a well. Okay, he limped to the well, and at that time there's no mirror, so he looked at the well to look at himself. He looked at his reflection on the well and said, alas, the maker of things, okay, has caused me to have such a deformed appearance. So he looked at the mirror or the well, and they say, whoa, the maker of things, or in Western world will say, God make me look like this. Okay. So we'll see how he talked about this after talk about an important concept here, so-called release from bondage. So Zhi, okay, the first person. So do you dislike it? You find out he's very sick and the body is totally deformed. And the sick man, okay, number 2 person, B, okay, Zhiyu, okay, he said, no. Why should I dislike? If my left arm will be transformed into a cock or a rooster, I will mark with it the time of night. If my right arm will be transformed into a crossbow, I will look for a bird to bring down and roast. If my rump bone will be transformed into a wheel and my spirit into a horse, I should then be mounted and will not change it for another steed. I mean, change it to another horse. Okay. When we come, it is because we have the occasion to be born. When we go, we simply follow the natural course. We stop here. Basically, his answer, his about his deformation is very similar to what Kevin talking about. Okay, after you die, your body decompose, right? Look like it's a disconstruction of your body, but actually the material, okay, at the time they don't have a concept of atom, but they have the concept of your body decompose and will be reconstructed, become other thing. So he said, my right arm may become a rooster, my left arm may become other things. Okay, my body will decompose, will become other things. So I still live. That's what he's talking about. So everything is based on the natural course. So those who are quiet at the proper occasion and follow the course of nature cannot be affected by sorrow and joy. Remember, not only affected by sorrow and also not affected by joy. This man was considered by the ancient. When Zhuangzi or the Chinese tradition talking about by the ancient, okay, that means the good example, okay, who are released from bondage. So if you understand this, you are released from the bondage. Those who cannot release themselves are hedged with the tremor of the thing. Moreover, that the individual things cannot overcome nature is a long acknowledged fact. Why should I dislike my condition? So he started to explain, okay, that's everything just nature. And if you acknowledge it, you are released from bondage. So that's the word 谢解, that means untie the knot. Okay, we will have a further explanation on this one. And then it's a continuum. Okay, then another person got sick. Okay, by and by, Zhi Lai, okay, the fourth person fell ill, and they gasping at the point of death. Okay, the other person almost died, while his wife and the children wept around him. Zhi Lai, okay, the third person, okay, went to see him and said to the wife and the children, "Go, hush, go out of the way. Do not disturb the nature evolution." So I will change the translation to metamorphosis, okay, nature metamorphosis, because I think evolution in today's language kind of like monkey become egg, egg become human. Okay, I don't think Zhuangzi had this meaning, and the word he uses hua, which means change, transform. So I think the metamorphosis would be more suitable for this meaning. That means it's naturally changed. Just we talked about when you die, your body decompose and being reused for other things. So Zhi Li, okay, Zhi Li is talking to Zhi Lai, the sick man's wife. Say, don't disturb this nature metamorphosis. Okay, then leaning against the door, he said, okay, great is nature. Here he talking about 伟哉造物, basically he meant the maker of things, which similar to we talk about God. Okay. What will he make of you? Will he make you into a liver of rat? Will he make you into an arm of insect? So that means his body will be reused. Could be something else. Could be just a very small thing, the liver of a rat, or just an arm of insect. So just like today we may talk about the molecular, the atom will be reused. So actually you are not dying, you just metamorphosis to all different kinds of things. So here is another important message. Okay, he's talking about what make my life good, make my death a good. So if you live a good life, you should have a good death. Okay, so that's pretty sure. I think that's a, to me, I feel like it's an important lesson. That's why you should try to live a good life. Okay, because if this world or God or the nature make you good when you are living, the nature or the God should make you good when you are dead. I think that's the concept Zi Lai is trying to talking about. So Zi Lai is talking about wherever a parent tells a son to go, replied Zi Lai, the sick person, east, west, south, north. Okay, he simply follow the command. So basic assumption is the son always listen to their parents. Okay, nature. Okay, here we talk about yin and the yang is no other than man's parents. If he beat you, beat me, die quickly. And if I demur, then I am obstinate and rebellious. So basically, so if the nature asks me to die, if I reject it, then I'm rebellious. That's my fault, right? And she does no wrong, or the nature does no wrong. The universe can, okay, the following message I highlight, and that's the also important message. The universe carry me in my body, toils me through my life, give me repose with old age, and rest me in death. What makes my life a good makes my death a good also. So he talking about the universe, the earth, okay? The earth carry me, carry my body, toil me to produce many things through my life, and give me the place to rest when I get old. And after death, this world still taking care of me. So to his point of view, he live and die. Okay, it's a continuous process, just like Earth. Nothing changed. Only I live and I die. Nothing else changed. So if I'm happy here, then I should be happy after my death. So that's his argument. So here is a great. So right now he make a metaphor, example of a forgery man. Okay, so the person who make the sword. Okay, here is a great foundry man testing his metal. If the metal should dip up at the same, the metal jumped and said, I must be made into a sword. Okay, that's a famous sword. That means like when the goldsmith try to make a sword and the metal jump out, say, oh, I don't want to become a cooking pot. I want to become a sword. Okay. The foundry man, the goldsmith will say, oh, that's strange, right? So that's his example. Then he said, now, if I will once meet the human form and will say, I must be born a man, I must be a man. So he meant, you know, that's a different than what Buddhism or Hinduism talking about of reborn or samsara or reincarnation, right? It's not necessary to be reborn a man. The nature, the maker thing will decide what you will become after you die. You may become many, many parts. So the Zi Lai is talking about, I'm not going to ask the maker of thing to make me a person again, because that's his decision. It's no difference. So just like a metal jump out and say, oh, I want to become a sword. I don't want to become a cooking pot. That's very strange because that's not your business. You just live through the life. So he said, the maker of things will certainly regard me as well if we take the universe as a great melting pot and the nature as a great foundry man. What place is it not right for us to go? Calmly we die, quietly we live. So here's the master message. He look at the universe as a melting pot, as the great nature, as the great foundry man. Okay, so goldsmith. So everything just the same. So if you think back on the chapter 2, talk about equality of things. I think Kevin just talked about the example, the atom, right? So we all made by molecular, by atoms. After you die, we deconstruct, our body decompose, and then rebuild. for other things. Could be a tree, could be a cup, could be a pen. You don't have to request to be a person again, because you are not you. Okay, you have many parts of you, and you just decompose and reconstruct to a different thing. That's the concept he's talking about on this story. And before I end this story, I would like focus a few concepts here. Because this story seems simple, but they have a few words important through the Taoism thinking. First, you see the translation talk about the universe, okay, the world. And actually, the Chinese word here he used is strange. He used so-called 大块. You can call it a big chunk, big lump, the earth, okay, or universe. That's what he meant. But Zhuangzi used the name big chunk or big lump. So it kind of very interesting word. He doesn't see the universe as a respectable thing. He considers universe as just material. Okay, that's no difference. Okay, that's the first thing I'd like to mention. Second, in this one is the first time mentioned about the maker of thing. Okay. So the maker of thing, one way we can think about is like in the Christian God. But this God is a little bit different. This God, the maker of things, is not a creator. He has formed everything with the big chunk of the stuff, big piece. Okay, so the universe see as a big material, and the maker of things will use this material to form many things: human, horse, ant, rat, everything. And when they die, they remake it. So that's Zhuangzi or Taoist's view of this world. You can see two things. One is the big piece or big lump, that's the universe. And they have another maker of things, okay, which is similar to God, but not a creator, but he's a maker. So he will make human, make man, make woman, make horse, make dog, make cat, make many different kinds of animal, tree, ocean, everything with the material. Okay. And then another concept talking about the Chinese word called Hua, and the formula translation call it the natural evolution, which I kind of think a little bit misleading. I will prefer call it the transformation or metamorphosis, which means it's going to naturally change from this form to this form. And I think the story Zi Lai talking about the universe is a great melting pot. Okay, so basically everything is the same material, just all the atoms just reconstruct and become all different things. That's the third concept. Another one is important called 解现解. Okay, so basically the translation will be release from the bondage. And or I think if you take the literary meaning, that means untie the knots. Okay, so people have a knot. The knot is just like just life and the death. I know I'm going to die one day, and my friend going to die one day, and that's a knot. So you need to untie this knot, and the translation would be called the release from bondage. So this concept is not new, and in chapter 3, another short story is talking about is the death of Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu is another Taoist philosopher before Zhuangzi a few years ago. This one is in chapter 3. I just repeat here. The story said that when Lao Tzu died, Qin Shi is one of his disciples, went to mourn over him. He uttered 3 years and went out. He just cried 3 times and walked out. Okay. So a disciple asked him, "Were you not a friend of the master?" And the Qin Shi, who just cried and then left. "Yes, I was. If so, it's proper to offer you a mourning merely, merely just like this." Basically talk about why you are not crying. Okay, not feel sad. So that's his answer. Okay, he said, the person crying too much, feel so sad, violate the principle of nature and increase the emotion of man, forgetting what we have received from nature. Okay, this were called the penalty of violating the principle of nature. So you have an emotion and you've been bonded by this emotion. So here he talked about you need to release from bondage. So that's in chapter 3. We already talked about two months ago. So that's the same message here. So that's I will, if we want to take for this short story, there's a 4 messages. I think that's important, right? First, the universal view, the view of this world. Zhuangzi's view, this world is all material, okay, the big piece, okay, and they have the maker of things. He will form everything, just the goldsmith will do things he wants. And the people, animal, all through this transformation, or you want to call it the metamorphosis, and this concept is simple, but most people have a human emotion, human feeling, feel sad, feel joy. This kind of become your bondage. So what we need to do is very simple. We need to release from this bondage, so you can live a quiet life. And Zhuangzi encourage you to think about this. If this universe, the big piece, the maker of things, make my life good, there's no reason make my death not good, right? So you have a good life, you should have a good death. That's what he tried to talk about. So the lesson I learned, enjoy your life, live a good life for this one. I will stop here for the second story, and then any comment, suggestion, and anyone want to share? How do you thought? What do you think about this story?
Goodness is not a choice.
Who is speaking?
Jacob.
Oh, Jacob. Yeah.
Goodness is not a choice.
Goodness is not a choice.
Right.
Okay.
The chooser prevents goodness, true goodness.
Okay.
Not the goodness that the mind invents, makes up, but true goodness is only possible when there's no me, no self, no I.
Yeah, that you hit the point. Basically,
No chooser.
Yeah, you don't choose. Okay, the maker of thing will decide what you become. Okay,
The maker is the brain body.
Yeah, that's a part. Okay, and then one concept here, very similar to Buddhism concept, is selflessness, right? So you will see this one will be very different from Hindu's thinking. Hindu will be a lot of things will talk about the Purusha, yourself, Atma. So you will see in Taoism thinking, there's no so-called soul. Okay, basics, when you die, there's no you. Okay, there's no you when I'm living here, and then of course there's no me after I die, because my body, everything belongs to me. Actually, will go to different place, become other place, and I have no decision on that because technically there's no I here. Any other thought?
So are you saying you have no I?
No, not this I mean self.
The I, the me, the self. Are you
self,
saying you
yeah.
have none? Are you free from the self?
You ask me, person?
Yes, I'm asking you. I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I feel I'm free, actually, to be honest.
Free of Jason.
Yes, yes, yes.
That means you're not Russian, Chinese, right? You don't belong to Taoism. You don't identify with any ideas, philosophies, religions.
I think point
Is that what you're saying?
is right for me, myself. I refuse being categorized as any kind of thing. Okay,
So why do you study Taoism then?
I also study Confucianism. So
No, but why do you study any of that?
because that's my interest, because I think learning is
My interest. Who is my? My is the self, the mind, the
yeah,
thinker.
good. Yeah, I think I will put this one on hold for this
And
moment.
the thinker is what prevents goodness.
Okay, thank you. We have Katie.
Yeah, that's funny because that was going to be my question. At first was, you know, because that's what Christians believe, that they would believe the science that your atoms end up in other things, but your soul goes on. And I think Jacob's question about, you know, you're not Russian or Chinese, it's more like you're not going to be Jacob after, you're not going to be Jason, or you're not going to be Katie. It's like you're just going to be, you know, returned to the earth.
Yeah, that's that's an endless question. You know? So I think it's the best way. That's my the way of thinking, because that's the idea, and then we just learned it. So anyway, thank you for sharing your thought. And then any other comment?
Just to be clear, I'm not talking about after death. I'm talking about before death.
Mhm.
To be set free from the illusion that there is a self. Right now, your brain body is under a delusion of me. It has many names: the soul, the spirit, the authentic self, the true self, the higher self, the Atman, the Brahman. You're under a delusion that there is something inside of you, which is your individuality, your personality, which is made up of your beliefs, your ideas, your points of view, your perspectives, your biases, your prejudices, your personal experiences. And that's what's doing the choosing. That bundle of memory is broken up, fragmented, battling within itself. It's full of contradictions, full of conflict, right? And so whatever it does is the activity of confusion, disorder, chaos. Everything you do, every thought you think, everything out of your mouth, all your actions 24/7 are the movement of disorder, conflict, violence. Now, the question is, are you aware of that? Are you aware of what the mind, the me, the I, the self is doing to you, to your brain body?
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Okay, so I don't think I'm able to answer your question at this moment. And let's go to Tristan.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for having this class. I try not to, you know, in class give personal interpretation, because I think this is you know, a purely academic study, and I think that, you know, whatever contribution I could give wouldn't be very fruitful. But one thing I have interpreted from reading this is that even the gesticulation towards something ephemeral and eternal, even the gesticulation towards the, you know, destruction of the ego itself or something like that, would be itself an act of ego, right? Because it's something that occurs from, you know, the necessity to, you know, be seen and be heard. And this is something that I think comes up in this text, where you have the story of the friends coming together and saying, well, you know, we should go in search of these great sages because this, that, and the other. And in themselves, they find that their quest towards the destruction of this selfhood is in itself futile. Like, so for example, to say, it's one thing to say, I have defeated death, I'm not afraid of dying. And then it's another thing to be on your deathbed and to stare it in the face of that human reality. So I think that, you know, this was a very interesting chapter this week, because I think it illustrates that even the earliest Taoists, even these people in the past, were cognizant of the fact that, you can be sage and you can pursue sagedom, but at the end of the day, you're still a human being and you have to deal with this very liminal world that we exist in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tristan, for sharing. I think that later on we will see the concept, and then one thing we can, when we go through, one thing you can think through is compare this concept with the Christian thought, okay, or the typical Western thought. I just like to make a point here. Here is different kind of God, okay, talking about the maker of things, okay, different, when most of, let's say, use Christian as idea, okay, or Greek, they have the concept of soul. Indian has a concept Atma, or Purusha, consciousness. But here, the Taoist thinker, okay, seems not talking about this. Okay. And how do you deal with death without your soul, without the Christian all powerful God? Yeah, of course, with the maker of things. How are you going to deal with this? I think that's a big question. Okay, I think that's my personal interest, because I read this one again and again, and then that's still my question, and I would like to hear from everyone, if you have any thought on that. And then I will continue for, I think we have 5 more stories, but don't worry, it's very short story. Any comment for last moment on this part? iPhone, Martin, please.
Well, as it said in the summary in this reading, that we continue, whether you believe in reincarnation or a soul or an afterlife, there's a way of thinking that we continue in any event, because the body decays, it fertilizes the earth, the food grows, it feeds another. So there are ways of thinking about a continuation of energy without necessarily tying it to any type of a religious or spiritual concept of a soul.
Thank you for your thought. And remember here, okay, even a lot of people talking about Taoism is similar to Buddhism, okay, but again, I don't think Taoism talking about reincarnation, samsara, okay. You, unlike Buddhism or Hinduism, when you die according to your deed in your life, you were born to the next thing. No, Taoism doesn't think this way, because I'm a great sage, and I might die, my arm may become a cat, another arm become an ant. Okay, so it's different. Mark, please.
Yeah, so I came in late, so my comments might not be well contextualized for the conversation. But Jason just asked about thoughts about death, so I'll share mine. But Jason, if you feel like they're not well structured for the flow of the conversation, feel free to interrupt me.
Okay, please go ahead.
So personally, I am kind of adverse to all these ideas of like all these anti-self ideas, like all this anti-egoism. Oh, you're not this, you're not that. That's just your conflict. To me, that seems like people who are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of being who they are, and they want to find some kind of sense of purpose and identity in something other than themselves because they feel so inadequate. And dominant ideological structures are happy to provide that for you, whether it be patriotism or this ideology or socialism or capitalism or whatever, or even like you know, you're a wealthy person or a high fashion person. There's plenty of people willing to prey on people's sense of inadequacy and sense of rejection of oneself. And then the other thing I want to say about fear, my understanding of animals, and human animals have this as well, although to a lesser degree, is that we all have a sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight reaction. And we've instinctively evolved to have fear of things. Now, I do believe that there are conscious mechanisms a person can use to focus their attention to ameliorate their fear and reduce their fear. But people who loudly proclaim that they're not afraid, I'm skeptical. I think fear is part of being an animal, and humans are animals. So with that said, one thing that I like, which I think is a mental technique, which helps me alleviate anxiety about death, mostly comes from Epicurus, which is where death is, you are not, and where you are, death is not. I'm not afraid of going to sleep. I'm going to spend 6 hours without consciousness. I'm going to miss all that out. I could have been awake that whole time, like reading or playing computer games or something. I miss out on all that. I'm not afraid of like not having existed for most of time, 13 billion years. And so death itself is like, I can conceptualize it as like the unimagined future, or the unrealized future, which is just a conception. Because I'm not going to experience being dead. Now, I may experience dying, and I'll probably be afraid when I experience dying. But I can also take some solace in, although I'm going to miss some things, I'm not going to have to put up with a whole bunch of crap as well. Like, there's a whole bunch of things about life that aren't that pleasant either. I'm not going to have those either. So those are my techniques for how I manage death. But maybe the most important thing, I think, is the acceptance of fear. It's like, I am an animal. I am going to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid of being afraid. I don't have to be ashamed of being afraid. Fear is like what animals do. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, anyway, thank you, Mark. Okay, so I hope you will continue and then see whether or not you have a different view, you know, after another hour. So, Marty, please.
I thought that was very interesting what Mark had to say. Just like to contribute my own thought, which is the way that I conceptualize or deal with death, is just the uncertainty of it. I mean, even in modern physics, has taken us to the point of like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Nobody, at least I don't think anybody really knows what it is. It's a mystery. It's all just such a great mystery. So not much sense in spending time worrying about something that's unknowable. It may be incredible, it may be nothing, it may be, there probably aren't even words for it when we're in this human form. So it's just an unknowable, incredible mystery, just like everything. Like, well, the origin of the whole universe is a complete mystery, even to the most brilliant scientists. So let's just celebrate the mystery.
Thank you, Marty. Okay. So let's move on. We have another more chance to share your thought, and then we move on. Number 3, we talk about 3 musketeers. Okay. Basically, we talk about 3 good friends. So let's continue. It's similar, but a little bit different. Okay. So 3 persons. Okay. Zhi Sanhu, Meng Zifan, Zhi Qin Zhang. Okay, that's 3 people. Okay. So these 3 people actually they appear in Confucius Analects. Okay, so it could be kind of real person, but Zhuangzi kind of changed the name in Confucius called Zhi Sang, but here he called Zhi Sang Hu. It sounds like the same people, but I'm not sure. You know, so Zhuangzi, when he writes story, he constantly changed name, invented new people, borrow other people. So we really don't know. So basically, we talk about three word friend, ABC, I call it ABC. They said to each other, who can associate in non-association and cooperate in non-cooperation. Okay, so that's a strange word, but basically in Chinese called you are together but not really together. You are help each other but not really help each other. So that's what he's talking about. And to me, the reason I highlight this one is this sentence struck me a lot, because in a way, I think I should only take care of myself, but I taking care of myself also help other people, right? A lot of people just help other too much out of your capacity, become bother other people. So that's a very fine line with you associate people or you don't associate people. Okay, you're taking care of yourself, but you also help other people in other way. Okay, so to me, I think this sentence, associated in non-association and cooperate in non-cooperation, to me is important message. And I'm not sure how to repeat, but just please keep in mind. Okay, who can mount to heaven and roaming through the cloud? Again, he used the word roaming or wandering. That means excursion. Okay, play around without a certain purpose, disporting in the infinite and become oblivious of existence. They forget about existence forever and ever without end. Okay, so that's their strong. Okay, the way their common belief, just like the previous story, the four friends, they have common belief. Okay, these three men look each other and smile, silently agree one with another, and thus become friends. Okay, very similar to previous one, four friends. Here is three friends. Shortly after, Zhuang Zi, the first one, died. Okay, unlike the previous story, they just got sick. Okay, here, the first friend, Zhuang Zi, who died. Okay, before he was buried, Confucius, okay, heard of the event and sent Zhigong to take part in the mourning. Okay, so here, according to Confucius analect, okay, they mention about the Zhisang, okay, but I'm not sure Zhisang who is the same as Zhisang. So Zhisang could be a famous Taoist person. So that's why he died. Confucius sent one of his chief disciple, Zhigong, to mourn. Okay, reason is this. Number one, Confucius is very focused on funeral service. So in the next story, we'll talk about the mourning, okay, the funeral. So second, he sent Zhigong. Zhigong is the student of Confucius, who is good at language. So he can speak well, he read a lot. So he's the best candidate to send to represent Confucius to mourn this Taoist, let's say sage or holy man, okay, when he died. So that's why, Zhigong went there to see. So what the story continue, but Zhigong found that one of the friends composed a song, okay, that must be Meng Zifan, okay, and the other was playing the lute. They sang together in union. So when Zhigong went there, he was shocked. He see the person dead, lying there, and the two of his first friend, one is composing the song, another one is play the lute, and they start to sing together. Alas, alas, Sanghu, alas, alas, Sanghu. You have returned to the real, but we still remain here as men, alas. So the way they are thinking is, Sanghu, you already returned to the real. Okay, they consider the death as real. And we are still here as men. Okay, you are real, and we are still the men. Okay, so Zhuang was shocked, right? So he hurried in and said, I venture to ask whether it is decorous, or you want to call it the rituals, to sin in the presence of the corpse. Okay, Confucius is very focused on rituals, right? Everything should according to the ancient rituals. So Zhuang went there and didn't see the funeral service, only see they are singing, okay, in front of dead person. And remember, Confucius have taught, if I attend the funeral today, I will never sing, because singing is kind of entertaining in Confucius, okay? So if you attend a funeral or somebody died, you don't sing the whole day, okay? Because respectful, you don't sing, you don't entertain, okay? If somebody died during the day, you attend the funeral. But these two persons, even worse, they are not only not singing, they sing in front of the corpse, okay? So to Zhuang, that's totally unacceptable. So that's why he asked the question, is what kind of ritual, what kind of decorous to sing in the presence of the corpse? So the two men, the two surviving friends, look at each other and laugh and said, what does this man know about the idea of decorum? Okay. Zhuang, do you really understand what's the meaning of ritual? Okay. So they laughed at him. So Zhuang went back. He was shocked, totally confused, went back to his teacher, Confucius, and asked him, okay, what sort of men? What sort of men are those? They have no culture and consider their body as external to themselves. They sing in the presence of the corpse without a change of countenance. I do not know what to call them. What sort of men are they? So according to them, Confucius, only the barbarian will do this. And how come this one? What kind of culture they are doing this? So here is the Confucius teaching. And again, I've mentioned in Zhuangzi, Confucius have many roles. But one role he never changed is he's a great teacher. He always explains things, okay, but which is not historically true. But Zhuangzi will make the story like this. So this message is, I think, it's a very important so-called outside human world, Chinese called Fung Wai. And I would think this concept would be similar to paradise. I don't know, there's a different word. That's a Confucius message, and which is important. They travel, actually, they use the word wander, okay? They wander outside the human world. Confucius said this way, I wander within the human world. So Confucius start to define, there's two words. One is outside the human world. One is within the human world. There's no common ground for those two ways. I was wrong in sending you there to mourn. Okay, so Confucius regret, I should not send you over there, because they live in the outside human world, so-called Fang Wai. Okay, and you and I live within the human world. They are companion of the maker of things, and the makes excursion with the unity of the universe. So he talked about the people outside the human world. They are companion with the maker of things. You want to think about God or something, they not belong to us. They wander with the unity of the universe. They have a different world. They consider life as an appendage attached to them, and excrescence next to them. So they consider life. What's the meaning of life? Is something attached to your body. That's the life. And they consider death as a separation of the appendage and the dispersion of the excrescence. Okay, so think about like you grow ulcer or something on your body, something grow on your body. That's where you live. That's the life. And then when this appendage left or separate to die. So it's just like this kind of nature. With this view, how can they be aware of the superiority of the life and the inferiority of death? So it's just attached and detached. There's nothing superior, nothing inferior about the life or death. They consider their body as a composition of different borrowed elements. So here's also a message here. So just like when I die or person die, my body part will become the part of other things. Same thing, my current body is just borrowed element. I borrow from the other dead person, borrow from the tree, borrow from other things to make my body. Okay, so they just temporarily lodge within it. So everything, my hand, my nose, my ear, just temporarily stay with me. They forget their liver and the goal and ignore their ear and eye. So he used the organ and ear, eye as example. They end and they begin without knowing either the beginning or the end. Unconsciously, they stroll beyond the dirty world and wander in the realm of non-action. So that's the famous thing about Wu Wei, non-action. So they are wandering around the world and they're in the area of non-action, which is Wu Wei. How can they foolishly trouble themselves with conventionality simply for the sake of ordinary people? So he talked about the people outside is different. They see life and death is just nature. Unlike people, like Confucius people, right? The regular people, we consider life and death is big. So remember, the Confucius teaching, the death is important thing. So here's a big contrast here. Confucius teaching is the death is important. You have to have the ceremony according to ritual, okay, and that these people live outside the human world. They don't care about this. Then Confucius continued to teach another lesson, so-called Zhuangzi and the small man. Okay, Zhuangzi means the moral agent. If you read analect, you should know the Zhuangzi and the small man are the two important concepts Confucius is talking about, because you want to be the Zhuangzi, a gentleman, and the superior man, and you don't want to be the small man. Okay. But here, Confucius start to against himself. Of course, that's not the real Confucius, that's Zhuangzi's Confucius. He talk about, if such is the case, said Zigong, why should you must stick with the conventionalities, right? So since you know, Master Confucius, why don't you go outside? Okay, so Confucius start to criticize himself. He said, I'm nature's condemned one. Okay, so he start to criticize himself because I'm being condemned by the nature. So I cannot go outside. However, that is what we are in common. You and me, Zigong and me, we are being condemned by nature. So we are not able to go outside the human world. So Zigong keep asking. I venture to ask you to give further explanation. So Confucius is going to use fish and the water as an example compared to man and the Tao. So fish enjoy water, man enjoy Tao. Confucius said, enjoying water, fish cleave or swim in the pool, and their nourishment is thus adequate. Okay, fish in the water is enough. Enjoying Tao, men do nothing, and their life is self-sufficient. So men only need Tao, just like a fish need water. Hence, it is said, fish forget one another in river and the day. Men forget one another in Tao. So this one is related to the first part of this chapter, right? When two fishes are stay together in a very few water, they have to help each other, okay? But when fish live in the ocean, live in the lake, they don't know there's water there. Even water is the most important. Same as men. As men, as a people, we live within Tao. We should not fear, we will forget about there's other men, what we need to do, because we just like a fish in the water. So Zhuang keep asking, right? May I ask about abnormal men? She said, right now they are within the human world. They see people outside as abnormal. So Confucius' answer is very interesting. He said, the abnormal man is abnormal to men, but is normal with nature. So you see them are abnormal, but in the nature's point of view, they are normal. We are abnormal. The civilized people are abnormal. The people outside the human world are normal. Therefore, it is said, and I'm going to use my own translation. I think here my translation is clear. Confucius said, the small man to heaven is Zhuangzi, the gentleman, to the ordinary man. The Zhuangzi is the ordinary man. To the ordinary is the small man to the heaven. So in another way, in this world, the gentleman or the superior man and the small man will be reversed, okay, in the outside world. So here, Confucius is talking about the difference between two worlds, and they follow the different rule. Okay, so that's the story. This one it brings up to Confucius, and then this concept of Fang Nei, Fang Wai, outside human world and inside human world, become important concept through the Chinese history, because people do believe, okay, they have outside human world. So, if you become hermit, usually the political force is not going to bother you. So that become a culturally important concept here. So I stop for a few minutes, then we can continue. Any thought, any comment? Okay, so I will move on this one. Since we are talking about death, then we talk about the best mourner. Okay, so that's another bring up a Confucius, another Confucius story. Okay, I think the following story are usually very short. So number 4 story, Yan Hui. Yan Hui is another student from Confucius. He is being considered the best student in the Confucian school. Right? So he asked Confucius, saying, when Meng Sun Cai's mother died, okay, another person died, Meng Sun, he wept without sneering, and his heart felt no distress. During the period of mourning, he exhibited no sorrow. Okay. According to Confucius' teaching, your mother died, you should mourn for 3 years. Okay. But this guy, Meng Sun, he just wept, but not sneering, no tear. Okay, his heart has no distress, and during the period of mourning, okay, he don't feel sorrow. Okay. Although one thing in these 3 points, okay, these 3 are important in Confucius' teaching, but he was considered as the best mourner in the state of Lu. That's the state that Confucius lived. Okay. Why is this? That's his question to Confucius, right? He doesn't follow the Confucius teaching. So Confucius is going to teach against this Taoism Confucius is going to teach against his own Confucius teaching. So Meng Sun is perfect. That's he's talking about. Okay. He is more advanced than knowledge. Some people compare life with death and cannot see the difference between men. This is good, but there is still the comparison. Meng Sun does not know what life is and what death is. He knows neither to prefer one nor the other. He simply follows the transformation and the way. The occurrence you unknown, yet unknown. Moreover, we are now in transformation. How do we know what has not yet occurred? What are we now transforming into what has not yet occurred? how do we know what has happened already? So here, Confucius is talking about the same concept. We are coming, we will transform from something else, and we are going to transform to something else. We don't know. We don't know our previous life. We don't know our future will be coming. So there's no point to mourn. And then Meng Sun did the right job. He just followed the tradition, and then that's it. That's enough. Okay. So he continued. So here is a concept here talking about the empty, the nature, and the one. Okay, this one would be kind of similar to Hinduism, talking about the same samadhi, right? So when you eventually united with God or Brahman, okay, that's the Hindu thinking. But I find out this one is similar and from the Confucius work. And he talked about maybe you and I are in a dream, and which we have not yet awake. To Meng Sun, there is a transformation of form, but no trouble in the mind. There is a change of logic, but no real death. So here he considered death as a change of logic. Your body part change to different place, you stay in different place. That's not a real death. He went, he simply followed the example of others. He just don't want it too strange, okay? He will consider everything as his own self. How can he know there is something which, among others, is peculiar called his own self? So here, Confucius still start to bring up selflessness, the concept of selflessness here, because since your body was borrowed from other people, and you will become other things. So what we see today, I'm talking just the borrowed material. Okay. So we're talking about how can you know? Okay, it's yourself. And plus, you don't know you are in a dream or not in a dream. So you dream that you are a bird and soar to the sky. You dream that you are a fish and dive into the water. We cannot tell whether the speaker now is awake or is dreaming, right? So if you recall on chapter 2, the butterfly dream, okay, so Zhuang Zi wake up and he got confused, am I still dreaming? So I think everyone probably have this kind of experience. So another concept bring up here, the real life, dreaming life, okay. A happy feeling prior to smiling. A false smile is not nature. Resting in the nature and going with the process of metamorphosis, you will enter into the empty, the nature, and the one. That's his conclusion, right? I think this one is very similar to, I think it's a lot of religious flavor here. We talk about you just resting on the nature and going the process of metamorphosis, you will enter the empty, it's called the Liao Tian Yi, the empty nature and the one. So that's Confucius' message on this one. So I'm going to the next story. Okay. So the following story are very short. So I'm going to finish, then we can continue to discuss. So here is another Confucius story. Okay. But Confucius is not here, but talk about morality, because before I was talking about ritual, right now we talk about the morality. So basics in Taoism point of view, the moral behavior, morality, if you follow the doctrine, it's kind of a punishment. So here's bring the story that's at least 1,000 years before Confucius' time. He talked about ears. Okay, ears is another person. Okay, let's do this one. He went to see Xu Yu. Xu Yu has been famous. Okay, I'm not sure. It could be a fake people invented by Zhuang Zi. But Xu Yu said, but at least we consider him as a Taoist sage. So we should learn what he said, Xu Yu. Okay, so Yi Erzi asked question. Okay, he mentioned another sage king. We will call him the Confucian sage king, Yao. Okay, Yao is the emperor during that time and being considered as a Confucian sage. Okay, so here is going to criticize what Confucius doing. So here said he asked a question, right? How has Yao benefit you, right? So you ask him, okay, what kind of benefit you get from the emperor? Because the emperor is going to give the throne to other people. So he must have talked to Yi Erzi, another being considered as a Confucian scholar, this kind of person, a good moral person. So Yao said to me, Yi Erzi's answer, that I must practice benevolence and righteousness and distinguish clearly between the right and the wrong. Okay. That's also important Confucian teaching, right? You should practice benevolence and the righteousness. You should distinguish the right and the wrong. Then Xu Yu asked him, what do you want here? Then you already done the Confucius teaching. Then what you want here? Okay, so he's going to criticize Confucius, and he used the word. Okay, if Yao already branded you with the practice of benevolence and the righteousness, so he used the word branded. Okay, so actually that's kind of ancient punishment. So when you have the committed crime, you're being tattooed on the face. So here he used this metaphor. You practice the benevolence and the righteousness, it kind of being tattooed on your face as a punishment. And the cut off your nose, there's another kind of punishment in the ancient China. Okay, with distinction of the right and the wrong. Okay, so you already being punished by this right and the wrong, and this kind of moral lesson, just like being tattooed and being cut off nose. Okay, how will you be able to wander the road of freedom and ease? So you have no way to become free and ease, right? Of the endless and unregulated enjoyment, ever-changing evolution. You already lost your chance. Okay, so Yi Erzi talking about this. He still want to learn something from the Taoism. So, but should I like to skirt along its hedge? So he's talking about, at least I can still wander along the boundary. So he think about, I already remember at the beginning, Confucius talking about the outside the human world and inside within the human world. There's no overlap. But here, Yi Erzi, this person, he's still thinking about he can go back and forth in this world. Okay, so Xu Yu told him, no, it's not possible. When a man is blind, he has nothing to do with appreciation of beauty and form and the color. So he talk about you just like a blind person, you cannot see the beauty. Okay, so Yi Erzi is still thinking about he can do it. So he gave an example. He said a beautiful girl can disregard the beauty, right? And the strong man can disregard his strength. The intelligent people, he used the example of the yellow emperor, can abandon his knowledge, right? So all this were brought about by the process of practice, firing and hammering. How do you know that the maker of things may not obliterate the mark of my branding and supply my dismemberment, so that, again, perfect in my form, I may follow you as my teacher. So he still want to learn from Xu Yu, okay, because he has been, the metaphor is he has been tattooed, but he think the maker of things may forgive me. So important message is the end. What should you talk about? Okay, should you talk about that cannot yet be known, but I should just give you an outline. Oh, my master, my master. Here, he is crying to the maker of things. He kind of, if you want to translate in the Western religious thinking, he will say, oh my God, right? So he start to talking about he means the maker. The maker tear all things into pieces, but he is not tyrannical. His blessing reaches all generations, yet he is not benevolent. He is more ancient than the highest antiquity, and he is not old. He covers heaven, support earth, and fashion the various form of all things, yet he is not skillful. In him, I make an excursion. So kind of like, praise the God, praise the maker of things. That's the Taoist way to talk about the maker of things. Okay, you can consider him as kind of God. So I'm going through for another story about the sitting and the so-called sitting in forgetfulness. Okay, that's another story about Yan Hui. So again, Yan Hui asked teacher, okay, I have made some progress. So the Confucius say, what do you mean? So he said, I forget the human-heartedness and the righteousness. So he forget the benevolence and the righteousness. So Confucius said, very well, but it's not enough. So right now, Confucius is behaved as a Taoist teacher. So Confucius already taught Yan Hui. The strange thing here is Confucius already taught Yan Hui about righteousness and benevolence. But Yan Hui said, I forget. And Confucius said, that's good, but not good enough. So another day, Yan Hui saw Confucius again. Say, I have made some progress. What do you mean? So I have forgotten rituals and the music, okay, which is also important teaching from Confucius. And Confucius said, well, very well, but it's not enough. So another day, Yan Hui again saw Confucius and they said, I have made some progress. So Confucius said, what do you mean? So he said, I sit in forgetfulness. So I think this one is also an important message here. So so-called sitting in forgetfulness. In a way, we can say it's meditation. Okay, so here's the Confucius realize, his student probably even better than himself. So at this, Confucius changed his countenance and asked, what do you mean by sitting in forgetfulness? To which Yan Hui replied, my limbs were nerveless and my intelligence is dim. I have abandoned my body and discarded my knowledge. Thus, I become what? Or you want to call it, I become unifying with the infinity. This is what I mean by sitting in forgetfulness. Okay, so Confucius listened on this. He was surprised. And he said, if you have become one with the infinite, Confucius said, you have no personal like and dislike. You have become one with the great universe. I will change the translation to here, my translation. Okay, Confucius said, unifying means no preference. Metamorphosis means no constancy. You are talented. I would like to follow you. So basically, Confucius recognized what the progress Yan Hui made, so-called sitting in forgetfulness. He said he unifying and the metamorphosis. Okay, he knows these two concepts. Basically, he become no preference. He doesn't have the concept of like or dislike. He has no concept of constancy. Okay, everything is changing. So in this way, Yan Hui is superior to Confucius. So Confucius said, oh, instead of you become my teacher, I should become your teacher. And of course, this one is not true in the historical account, but that's the story Zhuang Zi is talking about. So I will kind of stop here and then I'll stop for a moment. I think last slide is further discussion. And then if you, I will stop here for now. And if you have a question, comment, please. So we have talked about like the process of learning Tao and 4 good friends, 3 good friends, and the best mourner, and then talk about criticize about the punishment of morality. Okay, basically it's criticize Confucius teaching, and then talking about sitting in forgetfulness. So any comment or any question you want to ask or you want to share what you thought? No comment? Tina, please.
Hi. So I joined in about a half an hour before you after you started, but I did want to go back to the previous section where they're talking about the non-human world, the human world and non-human world. I know this might be a little bit different from what other people may have experienced, but I feel like that this discussion, and I don't know how much this may tie into Sun Tzu and Confucius's personal experiences, but to me it sounds like they're talking about a type of astral traveling, you know, or are you familiar with that concept?
I'm not familiar with it. No, sorry. Okay.
Astral traveling, or maybe you know, being or out of body consciousness.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I know what you are talking about.
Yeah, because I know that with a lot of people who do lots of meditation, it's not just about thinking about your life and the process, but there are other experiences that people can have within their meditation, and maybe out of body travel, maybe one of it, and being able to travel out of body, either by yourself or with others, is quite something. And to me, it sounds like they're covering this. In this section, I feel like they're referring to that.
Well, I just represent my understanding. Okay, so
that's okay.
I will say no. Okay, I will say they are actually living in this world, but they don't follow the convention of this world. Okay, so example, the friend die, they don't give them the proper ceremony. Okay, they sing the song, say, Sang Hu, you die, you go to the other world, and we still remain a man. So they didn't follow the tradition. Okay, so they don't want to practice the moral teaching, what is right, what is wrong, what's the ritual. They do whatever according to nature. So they probably still live in the same house, but they don't practice the same way, and they feel happy on this way. That's my understanding. Okay, so whether or not they have the mystical meditation, they totally forget. I don't know, but at least I don't read this way. Okay, let's put it this way. So, Tina, that's my response to your question. I'm not saying you are wrong, you should not read this way. I just say, I don't read this way. Okay, so that's me. So,
okay.
Of course.
Well, I read it this way, and I thought it actually seemed to have more meaning and more profound experience in reading it in that way. If you see it as that.
Anyway, it's fine. And then I've been very stick with the original text, and at least I don't see this way. I understand, but that's fine. You can different way, because I do know a lot of teacher will teach this one in more mystical way, and some teacher will teach in a way like literature reading, and some teacher will teach in a way of psychological advice. So there's many different, and the teacher, when I'm talking about is the college professor, they all teaching different way. So there's no fixed way to understand this. That's no big deal.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other comment, suggestion, or about today's section? Okay, so let me put this.